The photo, the value of waterboarding or other extreme interrogation methods, and what it all means for U.S. security. Just a few topics sparking debate after the death of Osama Bin Laden. With us tonight is Ahmed Rehab of the Council on American Islamic Relations, and Chris Robling describes himself as a conservative analyst who used to work at the CIA, by the way. Mr. Robling, President Obama is not going to release the Bin Laden photos. Your thoughts on that first?
Well, I think it's wise. I think that all Americans are pretty happy with how President Obama has performed on this particular occasion, and I think it's his call to make, and I don't think we have to spend a lot of time on it.
Mr. Rehab, would you agree?
I agree. I mean, people need to understand this is not like a mugshot. This is probably a photo with his eyes gouged out and his brains popping off his skull, and it's not going to help identify him. It's just going to be a gory, bloody picture that will incite, perhaps, retaliation against the United States. So I think it was wise action.
Now, there's been an ongoing debate as to whether or not it's those extreme interrogation techniques that led to this great day, as people have called the capture and killing of, or the killing of Osama Bin Laden. Some information about the courier who was followed there was apparently gotten during prison interrogations. Does the operation justify techniques like waterboarding? Mr. Rehab, you first.
No, I don't think anything justifies torture. We as a civilized nation should be anti-torture. Many governments in the Western world, in the world in general, are anti-torture. We don't want to be known as the ones who are employing a Spanish Inquisition torture technique to keep ourselves safe. And I think that also it's important to understand that in the past we've obtained false information because of torture or the threat of torture, specifically in 2002 when Ibn Sheikh al-Libi gave us false information regarding Iraq's involvement with Al-Qaeda, which helped lead us to war in Iraq. So it was a very expensive war in which lives were lost and trillions of dollars based on false information.
Mr. Robling, there are those who say that all torture gets you is bad information.
Well, first of all, I want to distinguish between torture and enhanced interrogation. I don't think anybody supports torture. Enhanced interrogation is something quite different, and President Obama has even retained to himself the ability to use it in certain circumstances, and that is all about the purpose and the procedures and the product.
But do you think that led to the victory, so to speak, here?
Well, I think all intelligence gathering is a question of putting together big pictures from very small bits of information, and I agree with my interlocutor that you've got to question the credibility of all information that gets into the picture, but it can be very helpful, and in this case we were put on this path by information that came after enhanced interrogation of both Khalid Sheikh Mohammed and Faraj al-Libi.
Okay, and finally, guys, do you think that a new terror attack is more or less likely in the wake of Bin Laden being killed?
I think we need to remain as vigilant as ever. I think that the terror networks in the world today are weakening. Bin Laden has long been out of contention, out of work because of the weakening of these terror cells. And what we're seeing instead is the rise of democracy and freedom. Millions in the Arab streets calling for a new day in their countries, and that will dominate a few decades. I hope.
Yeah, I'll pick up on that. The Arab street is far ahead of where Osama bin Laden was. The Arab street, we're seeing an Arab Spring in Egypt and in Tunisia. To some extent in Syria, to some extent in Libya, and we want to see more of that. Osama bin Laden was going backwards, and I think that kind of threat is relatively less, but it's still out there, and lone wolf threats are very serious, and they remain serious, such as sleepers and other types like that. Okay. So we have to remain vigilant.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Rehab and Mr. Robling. We appreciate you being with us tonight.
Thank you.
President Obama is going to fly to Ground Zero tomorrow.